Hey guys, hello, it's Paula here. I'm on for the first of the month as we have a new Moments Made monthly layout out for you. This time we are going to be documenting our March memories. So I hope you've been gathering some really fun everyday shots during the month of March and you've got them all ready to go so that you can pop them onto your first spread for the month. So what I'll do is I'm going to turn you around and we'll have a little look at some of the fun tips and ideas I have used on my layout. Let's just get you facing my layout down here. Right, so long as this is going to stay put, almost, there we go. I do have a few issues with this camera. Here we go. Okay, so this layout down here, you'll be able to see, I'll just move things up a little bit so that they are not distracting you so much. You'll see we've got this lovely double page layout, and the star of the show is most definitely the bundle I have chosen to add to it. So that is an optional extra. You do not need to purchase in additional supplies if that's not something that you've got the budget for. I do choose carefully when I look through the new products out when I'm thinking about memory keeping, and I want them to be bundles or stamps that I know you'll get a lot of use out of. Particularly if you're starting out with memory keeping, you do need to gather a few additional types of stamps that help us to tell the story. Now this particular one is called Capturing Smiles. It is such a lovely set. The reasons I've gone for it, first off, the cameras. You've got a large camera and a small camera in here. Cameras always work on memory keeping pages, obviously. Sometimes they can be the star of the show, a bit like this one, but many times they can just be the little small elements that you can place down, as part of a little embellishment cluster. But they are really helpful elements to have in your kit so that you can decorate some of your pages. Now the other thing I've particularly liked about this is all of these different sentiments. They are so good for memory keeping. So we've got everyday moments, we've got love the smile, we've got life's everyday moments, or we have got photo op, looking good, moments captured. There's lots of different things on here that we can use for titles or subtitles, which is always very useful. Now the dies that go with it allow us to cut out the shapes, the main shapes of the cameras, but it also allows us to cut out elements that build up the camera to make it a little bit more three-dimensional. It also has this fabulous piece that's like the negative strip, Polaroid strip, that kind of a vibe. We've got pieces, little squares that we can stamp our scenes on, which helps us to have, pretend little negatives in the strip there. It is quite a neat little set. One little bonus of this actually is that this part of the die is part of the main camera, but it's also a really good just little tag shape for popping out of the top of photos as part of another embellishment cluster. So there's a lot going on in that set, which is why I thought it was worth using it in one of these layouts. So as always, if you're part of the group that is subscribed to our monthly Moments Made monthly, you will have received today your instructions. Please shout out to me if you have not, because it is possible that I overlooked getting your email address into my list. I very much apologize if I have, but do reach out and let me know so that I can get that to you pronto. The instructions give you the basic measurements for laying out the background of your pages, and it gives you a whole lot of tips on how to elevate your page. We're going to discuss a few of those today here just to get you started, but it really is also for the subscribers to read through, or you can always get in touch with me if you've got any other questions. Now, a few key things with this layout. It uses 2 sheets of pattern paper. If you quite like both sides of one of the sheets, I've got 2 different patterns here. So I've used this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece. They're all like from one piece of DSP. I've just used the 2 different sides. And this middle strip is using another piece of DSP. So it's a really easy layout, very quick and easy to cut. I have added in little gaps with the background cardstock showing through. I've used crumb cake, so it's just showing through in little strips throughout the throughout the layout, just to differentiate between the different layers of paper, sorry. Now, if you want to, you can get a lot of photos on this page. As you can see, what have we got already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 10. We could even get another large photo on here. So I originally designed this, I won't be able to tuck that under now, but I originally designed this with that tucked behind, but with another large horizontal photo as well. And I was going to put my title down below. So if you have got a large horizontal photo that you'd really like to use, this is a thought, an idea of what you could do to be able to add that onto your page. I know having smaller photos is not everyone's jam. Also with this, you could be having larger portrait style photos on here. I have taken it down to more of an Instagram kind of look, it's Instax look, and having a square cutouts for my photos. However, as I say, these could be full-sized photo spots as well. So that's really fun. Now, that little photo spot here, all we do with that is we take our sized white, our cardstock, that is going to be our mat for the photo. And if we just really want that square to be the highlight for the photo and we have that kind of frame, I just went straight to my Stylish Shapes dies. The reason being is that I did a very silly thing in January and I purchased the stamp for Joyful Squares, but not the bundle. Now the bundle does have a square die in it, so if in January, for our January layout, you did get in the bundle and you use the squares on that layout, you might want to pull out that square now. However, I'm very lucky because I always have this one on hand, and I use this one almost on every project I do, and the largest square of that worked perfectly. So that's the size that I used to place in the center, well, in the top part, I should say, of that rectangle, ran it through the die cutting machine. That square popped out and I used that square over here. So that's how I kind of reuse some of those squares that popped out of that die cut exercise. I popped them over that side there. So that's a fun little tip for you. Now, in terms of the actual page, I have used this as my subtitle, which has come from that stamp we just looked at before. So I have created a feature spot using patterned paper, the same patterned paper that's behind there. So that's an additional piece of paper that I have pulled in. I have pulled in also from that January stamp set that very fun clipboard element. So I've placed that on there using a crumb cake cardstock, blending over it with Early Espresso just to make it look a little bit more rough and malty. And then I have trimmed those out to place around the page. So that's some of the key things of what I have done to create this effect of photos hanging, I guess, on a string, and this whole camera theme on the page. Now let's have a look at how those cameras come to life. So when you cut out your cameras, I recommend from experience to stamp your elements first and then die cut them out. Now, I didn't used to have to do that so much with my previous supplier of stamps and die cuts, but with Stampin' Up, they are very, very small boundaries between where you stamp and where the die cut cuts. So it's actually great because you get a very more realistic look. That's not this big thick white line on the outside. However, it does make it very difficult to stamp after you have die cut the shape. So my recommendation is to stamp first and then die cut. So the stamp set itself, you can see what all the different elements look like stamped. I love how delicate and it's almost like an architect drawing of this camera. It's lovely thin lines. I think it's really, really lovely. So what we do there is we get a piece of card. I've often gone for a slightly lighter shade for the background. I've stamped it with a darker shade. So in this case, I believe I've stamped in Secret C for on side of our layout. I actually used crumb cake, but it's a lighter crumb cake. When I started, I stamped on it and then I sponged that Early Espresso over it just to give it a little bit more of a leathery, more malty look to the case of the camera. So you have your case, then you get a contrasting color for the tag piece in the middle. So this is kind of like your strip or your viewfinder, the piece that, sorry, the lens is coming out of. So this is the front of the camera that we're looking at. Then what you do is you grab a circular piece that gets cut out from the dies. So let me just pull out the dies so you can see what they look like. So there's all the die shapes there, and there is this piece here, which is your base, sort of the bit that you would use to focus with. Let's just grab that one, that will do the job, even though it's white. I was just thinking if I had another color shade with me, but this one will do the job. We can pop that one on there, and then we have got this other shape that cuts out of the inside is no, it's not that one. It is, let's get it right, this one here. The outside of this one is this ring, which is where you can stamp this piece onto. So that's going to go on there. Now there's a little element piece I haven't popped in yet, and that's this circle, and when you stamp it, it's like the shutter opening and closing on your lens. So the best way to actually glue all this, I believe, to get the best look, is to put a bit of dimensionals behind the center piece. So I'm going to just use my standard size dimensionals for that. We'll pop 4 on. That's kind of handy. Peel those off. And so the larger ones are great because it keeps it a bit more solid when it's sitting inside your album and being pressed on. We don't want too many gaps under there so it sags too much. Then I just grab my glue. So I've raised that little piece now, so it's giving it a bit of element of sort of dimension there. Glue that piece down. I'm going to glue this piece on top. Okay. Just a little bit is fine. There's actually a lot of hold in this glue, so you don't need to give too much. And then that piece that I stamped on, we're just going to go around the edge of that as well. So I don't put any more dimensionals on because the layers of the cardstock themselves give an element of dimension as well. Slightly over to that glue. But there you go, that's as easy as it is to pop that camera together. And you can do that camera in lots of different shades. So that's a lighter version of the camera. Obviously, on our layout, we have that darker version of the camera. And I've even done one in black. Now, our two-toned black is quite ideal for this. So that's when I cut it out in the black side, but the back of it is more of a deep grey. So the one that I actually went with was the deep grey, and I heat embossed and used black powder just to make it a bit more sparkly and just kind of picking up the detail of that outline. I've done the black embossing also on the tag piece in here on the black side of the card. So we had the light side, the dark side, and then I layered up with my little pieces on the top. So that looks like quite a realistic black camera, which, you know, again, would look great on your layout if you're more into the more traditional look. Now, the other pieces that come with that set is that negative strip. So the negative strips looked quite fun, just bunched in the corner there as part of the tag. And I've obviously used one of those elements that came from the inner part of the camera as a tag there, and that little photo op small sentiment. But see, I've even grabbed over here a bit of that negative strip just for a bit of fun, that idea of photos going everywhere. What you can also do with this is do like a whole strip. So it won't show up particularly well here, but I could have this, and if that's tucked away, so it's just more of this, it looks like one big long strip. So you can kind of tuck away this piece, chop it off, tuck it in here, and if it was all the same color, it would be like one big long strip. So you can create the effect of a really long strip of negatives if you've got something to break it up in the middle. I guess the only other tip here too is, if you can see closer up, I have actually blended a little bit of color on that square, and you can't see it very easily in the light, before I stamped those pieces in there, just to give that element a little bit more of a bluey green hue. So that was just my way of, so I suppose, highlighting that title. Okay, so I think that's about it to get you started with this particular layout. It's a lot of fun putting this one together. You're going to be able to capture a lot of memories. I meant to print my photos. I've got them all highlighted, but it came to 7 and I realized I hadn't printed my photos. So that's all right. You will see my finished layout tomorrow when I post it up on our Facebook page. There is actually a post ready for us to pop our finished layouts into. So please do. I really love seeing what everyone else has got up to with that layout instruction. All the different interpretations are really fun to see. So yeah, have a little go. See what you think of the March layout. And have a fabulous week, guys. Oh, I just saw one more thing I was going to show you. Some people, so almost gone. You didn't quite lose me. One more thing I was going to show you is that we have this gorgeous green leaf that's come from one of our more recent stamps. And I just wanted to show you that this camera looks quite lovely with a little bit of foliage coming out of it. So if I wasn't going to use that spot for a photo, I could pop in a little bit of green foliage there, and that one could come out there. So I've actually used the Secret Sea down on that one. I've used the green, the Mossy Meadow on that one, but it just starts to add a bit of lushness to the page. I probably actually wouldn't put them quite in the same direction, so let's just pop this one further out this way for a change. And we'd pop this one coming more this way. But you can kind of see the idea of it. And I love cameras with an element of the garden or the outsides with them. So there's a lot you can do with just adding in a few other pieces to your page, and you will create something quite new. So I can't wait, as I say, to see what you do. Have a great week, and we will catch you all again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.